let's get to the most epic finish of all time because it simply was extraordinary. 46 points up Melbourne were at three-quarter time, and then one of the most extraordinary comebacks as Ross Lyon's men caught fire in the last quarter, setting up that final minute miracle from Nasai Wanganeen. What changed in this game, Joey? How did St Kilda get back in this contest? They were gone.
They were gone. It really came out of nowhere, to be honest. They didn't ever really look like winning, but they just threw, just went at it. They went for it. They took the game on. Max Hall had an incredible fourth quarter himself. We'll get to the main man in a moment, but his 7 disposals, 6 score involvements, 4 clearances and 2 goal assists to Max Hall alone. But they just kept peppering away. They just went for broke. They took the game on, and then their forwards were starting to get on fire. They were marking the ball. They were getting really good looks. Here's Hall again. And it just, really, Melbourne capitulated to some extent. They just stopped. And the Saints just had all the momentum and they kept going. They were able to kick 4 goals from clearance in that last quarter, Kingy. And in the end, they just overwhelmed the Demons.
For an experienced team, they just lost their minds, Melbourne. They did some erratic things. They took risks when they were trying to save the game. They blasted the ball back in the corridor. They surged the ball forward. Oliver missed a relatively easy snap. He had a player over the top. They just completely took their head off and put the pumpkin on. And it was just amazing to see. Momentum in footy is the most dangerous thing in the world. And this guy, well, he just gives you hope. He didn't just kick the goals, Joey. It's 3 metres either side.
He flushed them. I did my crack a few weeks ago, Jay, saying his signature was as important as Tony Lockett when he left St Kilda all those years ago. And I think that it might even be unders. I think he might be the biggest signatures. But what he is doing it's phenomenal. And if St Kilda, who are still so nervous, all the supporter base about losing him, it would be heartbreaking for the year that he's had and what he's produced the last 6 or 8 weeks.
In the last 10 years, how many times do you reckon they've kicked 9 goals in a quarter? In 10 years of footy?
Once.
Twice. So it rarely happens. Yeah. And to keep Melbourne to 4 points, it's just amazing.
But all the talk is about the last play and what happened and what unfolded. So it was a 6-6-6 infringement against Melbourne, their second. They didn't have 4 players inside the centre square. So what happened is, once they knew that, all the players wanted to rush back. But here's St Kilda setting up. So right now, this is a heads-up play. Rowan Marshall and Wanganeen Miller discuss the play. They work out what is happening. So Rowan Marshall and Wanganeen Miller say, we know what we're going to do. So watch Wanganeen Miller here yell out to his forwards. He says to them, hey, get out to the right, go out that way, because he knew that he was going to break out to the left. So then you see Caminiti. You just caught Caminiti on the edge of the screen there as a wingman. He says, you get out of the way. You get out of my space. Forwards, you pull to the right. As soon as we get this ball, I am breaking on an angle, because it was smart to not think straight. Look at him go. And Rowan Marshall on the same page straight away. The kick was perfect. The courage, the set play. That is a brilliant heads-up play by those 2 players in that situation when the scores were level, to be able to think their way through, get organised exactly what they wanted, and then for him to go back and flush it. It was one of the great finishes of all time, to be honest.
He's 22 years of age in his 4th season. They are ice-cool nerves. It's the most composure we've seen from a young player in a long time. When the confusion and craziness of everyone, Melbourne didn't know what to do, he is a complete takeover from this man. And an extraordinary solo act, really. How did his coach feel about that moment? He was giggling in the coach's box. Let's take a listen to Ross Lyon.
Yeah, it might have been close to a minute. But were we able to get any messaging out from the box to the players on the field?
No, you're not allowed to send anyone on.
Yeah, so
We've been new to it. From 2 minutes in, not allowed to send a message. How many messages we get a quarter? 4 outside of goals. So that's why senior on-field leadership's never been more paramount. And then your education, and some of the media types don't like to hear it, but when you're a young group, you're trying to build out basics, let alone game scenarios. So, again, Naz was instrumental, him and Rowe. They said, get the forwards to one side, I'm going to dart there, and that's what they did.
Act of genius, really, from a young footballer. What about the Melbourne side of this coin, Kingy? Because you mentioned a complete capitulation.
Yeah, he just said it then. Ross just said it then. Leadership's never been more important. Your hands are tied as a coach. They're in full control. Name me the leaders at Melbourne. They're all there. We've got Petrarca.
It's a senior group.
Gorn. You got Salem behind the footy, McDonald behind the footy. They're everywhere there. So they should have understood this situation. They should have understood the 6-6-6. So instead of getting confused here, and they're going to hand over the ball, why is Max back in the middle? I just spoke with Ray Chamberlain. He said there's no rule that says Max has to go back in and reset. He should be the loose man. if he's back inside fit, what the hell's Viney doing in the middle of the wing? When his opponent has gone to the left edge to charge forward. So as the fourth midfielder comes in, no one's communicated. Those three guys there, no one knows who's got who. So the most important player on the ground, Viney's thinking, I've got to get back to Wanganeen-Millera. I'm assuming that's what he's thinking, because he's not going with Caminiti, who charges to the left. Well, clearly he doesn't get there. He doesn't surge. Bowie doesn't know what he's doing. And the rest of the Melbourne backs, they're all here. Well, why is Bowie out there? If he's all the way out there, that's fine. Stay there. He turns to correct and look. He's not organising Viney. He should be saying to Jack Viney, come back. If you have a couple out, Joe, which is the old rule, maybe it's saying, if Max is there, I guarantee Max is on the right-hand side in the absolute drop zone. Bowie turns and he's not even facing the play. So I don't understand how they've capitulated so poorly in the space of 30 seconds. They haven't assessed the situation, they haven't assessed the likely danger zones, and they've allowed Nasiah Wanganeen-Millera to charge unopposed into that dangerous area through a lack of understanding of what's likely to happen and a lack of communication. This is on them, and the details matter. This comes back to coaching. I don't care what anyone says. And it comes back to learnt habits, learnt skills at training. OK, 2-minute drill, what can we do, what can't we do? They should have known these things. They really should have known. This is their profession. I'm disappointed with Melbourne because this is a game they played really well for 3 quarters and have just lost their minds.
And Pickett and Petrarca didn't have to be at the square. They at the circle. They could have been all the way back just inside the square because they knew it was St Kilda's free kick. They were resetting for St Kilda's free kick, so they didn't have to be at the circle. It was.
Did they think it was going to be a bounce?
Exactly. I'm not sure.
They didn't know.
And the other thing too, when you point out that,
the details matter. You've got to be across these things.
But Simon Goodwin was coaching from the bench, Jay-Z, and they kept crossing him. He wasn't giving instruction to his players at all. He was standing there watching. If you're on the bench, that's one of the advantages you have as a coach is to be able to yell out to your players in that situation. Jack Viney, his vice captain, would have been 40 metres away from him.
What was Viney? He was guarding no one.
He didn't know. He lost his head.
It's the dumbest thing I've seen this year. Viney standing wrong side of his opponent, 30 metres, giving a targeted player. Look, he can contested mark this guy, Caminiti. Allowing him to go inside 50 unopposed is just a cardinal sin.
Let's have a listen to the coach, Simon Goodwin from Melbourne.
We won't shy away from it at all and won't sugarcoat it. We'll just own it and do something about it and make sure it never happens again. Today's unacceptable. For all the good that was in the day, that last quarter was so far off. And whether that be the way we played, in terms of what we really value, but also how we handle real momentum and swings against us and tight game scenarios.
So you just wonder, I know the last game moment cost them the game, but what of the whole last quarter, that capitulation, that'll be something. I mean, this will haunt, it's a huge wound for Goody. They've lost to Carlton, they just lost to St Kilda, they gave away the ungivable lead, and then they've got West Coast next week. Now, is it 3 strikes, you're out, honestly. They can't afford to lose those 3 games for Simon Goodwin. This is something that will haunt him for the rest of his coaching.
So does that undo the 3 quarters of good footy that they were playing? Their ball movement, they looked slick, they were playing well.
Well, do you think so?
Yeah, well, it does, yes. Yeah, I mentioned my question. I think it does. I think it undoes all the good work they did for 3 quarters where they looked really good. They were dominating.
An unforgivable meltdown, really, from Melbourne.
Your job as coach is to upskill your players, to have them a full book on what's required at certain moments of the game. I dare say if this happened to Collingwood, you would get a drastically different looking last centre bounce with all the pieces in the right places. So if you're going coach v coach, it doesn't read well for Simon Goodwin. No. And his assistant coaches as well. They're all in this together. They weren't across the details, and the details matter.
It'll be a haunting loss. They need to beat the Eagles next week for sure.